Pack your things, Sadie. Your desk needs to be clear by noon, my husband sneered in front of the department. I stared at him, realizing the nightmare was just beginning. My name is Sadie and I am 34 years old. For 8 long years, I worked as the lead strategist at Vance and Associates. It is the big investment firm owned by the family of my husband, David. I was not born into wealth or high status. Every piece of my professional reputation was built on hard work and late nights. I missed holidays and birthdays to make that company succeed. My husband was always the face of the business. He was the favorite son and the one they always praised. I was the engine in the basement that kept everything running. David loved the status I gave him, but he hated that I was better at the job. I spent years playing small to make him feel big. I thought that was what a supportive wife should do. I lived in a modest shadow while making sure his suits were pressed. I made his presentations flawless every single time. David thought I was just a lucky girl. But I had something they could never track under their own noses. If you have been told you would never amount to anything, subscribe and let me know you are here. Your journey matters and I want to hear it. I have lived through the doubt. I know how it feels to be overlooked. Drop a comment. I am reading every comment. The morning started with the sound of coffee being poured into expensive china. It was a high-stakes Monday meeting. The air in the boardroom was thick with tension and the scent of expensive cologne. I stood up to present my plan for the new tech merger. I had worked on this for 6 months. I was halfway through my first slide when David stood up. He did not look at me with love. He looked at me with cold disgust. He told me to stop talking right then. He said my services were no longer required at the firm. I felt a chill run down my spine. This was happening in front of all the junior staff and every senior partner. The room went silent. David started to laugh. He told the entire room that I was only there as a charity case for the family. He said they felt sorry for me. Then he introduced his new assistant. She was 24 and wearing a dress that cost more than my first car. It was clear she was more than just an assistant to him. David told the partners she was taking over all my accounts immediately. I felt my face burning with shame. He leaned in close until I could smell the mint on his breath. He whispered in my ear. He asked me if I really thought he would let a secretary daughter run his empire forever. He told me to go home and start dinner. He said that was all I was actually good for in this life. I began to gather my files with shaking hands. Then I saw what was on his laptop screen. He was not just firing me today. He was trying to claim my proprietary Nexus strategy as his own creation. He wanted to impress the board with my work. The humiliation was not just about my job. It was a total erasure of my identity as a professional. I walked out while they all watched me leave the office with nothing left to say to any of them right now. I got home and tried to open the front door. The electronic lock beeped red. My key code had been changed. David had wasted no time. I pulled out my phone and saw a notification from our bank. He had drained our entire joint account. He told the bank it was company property because it was funded by his bonuses. Those were bonuses that I had earned for him with my hard work. I was standing on the porch with only my purse and a box of office supplies. Then the emails started coming. David had sent a mass message to our entire professional and social circle. He claimed I had a mental breakdown. He told everyone I was fired for unstable behavior. My phone began to vibrate constantly, but it was not people checking on me. Friends I thought were loyal stopped answering my calls. They did not want to be associated with someone who was labeled as unstable. I felt so alone in that moment. I checked my social media and saw that I had been blocked by almost everyone. Then I received a text from a former colleague who felt guilty. She told me David was presenting my secret multi-year research project to the board tomorrow morning. He was calling it his grand vision to save the firm from bankruptcy. He was stealing my life work to get a promotion he did not deserve. I felt a surge of anger that was stronger than my sadness. I drove to a small motel on the edge of town. The room smelled of old cleaning supplies and dust. I sat on the edge of the bed and opened my laptop. David thought he had destroyed me. He thought I was just a wife who followed him around. But I had been building a wall of defense for 3 years. I spent all night looking at lines of code and financial records. I could hear the sound of the traffic outside the window. It was the only thing louder than my own heartbeat. I was not going to break. I was going to fight back. I had been invisible for too long. I knew where all the bodies were buried in that company. I had seen the creative accounting they used to hide their losses. I had copies of every email and every memo. David thought he was playing a game of chess. He did not realize that I was the one who wrote the rules. I was ready to show him what happens when you push a quiet person too far. He will regret the day he ever met me at the old office. For the last 5 years, I have been operating under the pseudonym The Ghost Analyst. My blog and private consulting firm are the most respected voices in this industry. What David and his family did not know was that they had been following my anonymous advice for years to keep their firm afloat. They read my reports every morning like they were scripture. They paid for my private newsletters to understand where the market was going next. I was the hidden hand that guided their success. I had a plan they never saw coming. Every mistake David made was something I had quietly documented. Every win he had was a trap I set that only I could spring. I was not just leaving that company. I was preparing to collect the massive debt they owed me for my silence and my skill. I had encrypted files that linked his family to illegal offshore accounts. I had recorded every time they mocked the board behind their backs. They thought I was a secretary daughter who was lucky to be in their presence. They did not know I was the reason they still had a presence in the city at all. I was the ghost. I was the one who saw everything. I was about to walk into their world and turn the lights on. They were living in a house of cards. I was the wind. It was time to strike. I met with Mr. Henderson in his private office. He was an old family lawyer, and he had been my father's best friend. He was the only one who knew the truth about the Vance family business. He opened his leather briefcase with a satisfying click. He showed me that the firm was built on a mountain of creative accounting. It was a sham that was about to collapse. Mr. Henderson then revealed something that changed everything for me. My father had left me a specific set of shares in a trust. The Vance family had tried to bury that trust during my marriage. They thought I would never find it. David called me that afternoon while I was with the lawyer. He was gloating. He told me he was about to be named the new CEO of the firm. He said I would be lucky if he gave me a small alimony check each month. He laughed because he thought he had already won. He told me I was homeless and jobless. He said I had nothing left but my tears. I did not say a word to him. I just listened to his arrogance. The board meeting was set for the next morning. David had no idea that the ghost analyst had been invited to consult on the merger. The board was desperate and they reached out to me through my anonymous portal. I accepted their invitation. I told them I would come in person this time. The tension was building as the sun went down. I was ready to walk into that boardroom and take back what was mine. David thought he was climbing to the top. He did not know he was standing on a trapdoor that I was about to open for good. He is finished, and he does not even know it yet. The boardroom was silent as David stood at the head of the table. He was wearing his most expensive suit. He was presenting my Nexus strategy with a huge smile on his face. He was basking in the praise of the directors. I walked in with Mr. Henderson. David turned red when he saw me. He told security to remove me. He shouted that I was delusional. He said I was a bitter ex-employee who was having a breakdown. Mr. Henderson stepped forward. He dropped a thick stack of documents on the table. He explained that the Nexus strategy was copyrighted to an independent firm. That firm was owned entirely by me. David started to stutter. He looked at the board members. I looked him in the eyes. I told them that I was the ghost analyst. The board went silent. I showed them proof that David had stolen my vision from my private servers. I played the recordings of him mocking the board. I showed them the offshore accounts he had used to hide company money. The board members were stunned. They looked at David with pure hatred. David tried to say it was all a lie. He tried to claim I was framing him, but the evidence was too strong. I showed them my trust shares. I now held enough voting power to decide the future of the company. The board realized that without my strategy and my shares, the firm was insolvent. They turned on David instantly. He looked like a cornered animal. The chairman stood up. He did not look at David with the usual respect. He handed David a thick white envelope. David reached for it thinking it was his promotion, but it was not. It was his immediate termination. It also contained a notice of a lawsuit for corporate theft. The room felt cold. David looked at me and asked why I did this to him. I told him he should have let me pack my desk in peace. He had taken everything from me, so I took everything from him. The favorite son was now a common thief. I stood at the head of the table. I was the one in control now. They all looked at me. and waited for my next command as I took charge of the future plans. I watched David's face turn from arrogance to pure terror as he realized he had lost everything. He lost the firm. He lost his reputation. He lost his favored status in one single hour. I did not stay to watch him cry. I did not want to see his regret. I walked out of that building as a new woman. I was no longer the worker bee. I was no longer the quiet wife who lived in the shadow of a mediocre man. I have my own firm now. I have my own name. I have a future that I built with my own hands. David and his family thought they could use me. They thought they could throw me away like trash when they were done with me. But they forgot one important thing about the world. You cannot fire the person who actually owns the building. I am finally free of them. I am finally living for myself. I am the architect of my own destiny, and I am never going back to the old way of life. Did someone take credit for your work or steal your chance? Tell me in the comments. I know how it feels to watch someone else win using your hard work. I want to hear how you stood up for yourself. Subscribe to join our community of people who refuse to be silenced. Click hype to help this story reach others who need to hear it right now. Thank you all. Your story has power. If you felt a connection to mine, please subscribe and share your journey in the comments. Every hype you give this video helps empower someone else who might be feeling small right now. Thank you for being here and for listening. Remember, you are the architect of your own life. Let us keep building together. I am reading all of your comments today and every day.